Hello. Hi, welcome to our last This is How I Teach seminar. We decided to cancel the next one because it's getting into December. I think our faculty start to have a lot of workload piling up. So we actually rescheduled that session to next semester. Today we are very excited to have Jason coming here to show us about how he teaches online, the whole 9 yards. So Jason has been teaching online at USF for many years and have a lot of unique insight how he managed the course management and also the curriculum. So let's give him a round of applause.
Okay. All right, thanks. You know, I wish I could have attended more of these, but I know that they're all doing great work. I'm not here to lecture, because if I was here to lecture, then I'd be a hypocrite with what I'm going to talk about, how I teach. Megan described my presentation as the whole 9 yards, everything about online education. And just again, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jason Fertig. I'm in the College of Business. I've been here since 2009. I've taught online since 2004, since I started teaching. And I feel like I've messed up everything humanly possible that I can mess up in teaching online. And that's kind of why I'm here, is to kind of give you the knowledge, right? So take it from someone who's absolutely terrible at it, since I've learned what not to do. Question number one, again, I want to talk to you, not at you. I have my Blackboard up here. If you're logging in and seeing this, yeah, that's just my Blackboard. And just a point of note, if you have tons of Blackboard courses up there, right, click that. You could only see the ones that you're currently teaching. But how many of you are teaching online now? Or will? I know Dane. I know we're very cliquey here. My business cohorts are all kind of sitting in the corner over here. I know Dane is tall in the corner. I know Ernie. So about half. Okay. Here's the way I want to frame this discussion, because this was in my promo video and the like. The biggest lesson that I learned in teaching online is that it is absolutely not the same thing as teaching face to face. As a matter of fact, if you'd be best served if you just thought about yourself as a rookie teacher the first time you come in and teaching online. So I'm going to give you a couple of analogies, and so I like sports analogies. So anybody play baseball or has played baseball? Okay? Anybody play softball? Are they the same game? I mean, they got bases and people are running around. Well, what's the difference between playing baseball and playing softball? Okay, the ball's bigger, right? Certainly it should be real easy to hit that big softball. If it's slow pitch, right? I was never good at hitting. Unless it's Jenny Finch doing the, right? And of course, baseball, the ball is smaller. It's coming at you faster, but then at the end, you still got to run around the bases. Well, I mean, that's online teaching to live teaching. There's students. There's probably an assessment. There's you, the professor. But it's a different game. And I think a lot of times we get lulled into the fact that just because we've been teaching live students, that what works online and it's honestly, I did the same thing. You think about, well, I got this Blackboard here. That's my classroom. We're all just going to go to class. We're going to log into Blackboard, and I'm going to teach class the same way. So question number one would be, though, if that is the case, normally your students are here. Where are your students when you log into Blackboard?
Everywhere.
They're everywhere, right? So where do you think they are? Are they laying in their bed? Are they watching TV? Are they on the toilet? Are they watching their kids? Right? We don't know. Not only that, unless you have some kind of dedicated chat session, they're not all logged in at the same time. So that's less of an important point than the first one, which is that they're not, they're all over the place. Now, for example, if I was somewhere, let's use Indiana, so if all of you were in some library in Jasper, and I was here in HP 1027 just lecturing to that camera, okay, then we can make some of the argument that we're playing baseball in a dome or something like that. But it's not. And so we got to really think about that this is really a different ball game. So now I'm going to stop for a second. Do any of you disagree or agree or can expand upon what I just said? So online and live teaching are different ball games. How has that affected you or impacted you when you teach? Have you learned that lesson the way I did, or do you still feel that you can use the same type of teaching pedagogy online? So, for example, let's use, I'll fill in the blank, I'll make it easier, so I'm going to just keep fishing and reeling in, seeing if somebody, so I'll just be completely blunt. I think the discussion board is the worst thing ever created. Anybody agree or disagree? All right. Dane, go ahead. You use it, so please, go ahead.
Disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
Disagree because, particularly at the MBA level, I find that although there is some issue with repetitive posts, I get the opportunity to hear from more folks on a regular basis and to actually assess their contributions in discussion, where I don't find that's really feasible in class. So I actually like the discussion board very, very much, particularly at the MBA level. That's the undergrad.
Okay, so at the MBA level, and what Dane says, Dane uses it for his, I believe, graduate HR course. What I have found is that the discussion board is much like, I don't know, so just say like a straight edge razor. You know, you can get a really good shave from it if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to cut yourself. And that's essentially what the discussion board in a lot of ways is. And the reason I bring that up is I think that is always my exhibit A of how you can make a lot of work for yourself because you're thinking about what you normally do in the classroom. Well, normally I got people in the classroom. Therefore, I'm going to call on them. I'm going to get input. I want to know how they feel. And therefore, I'm going to simulate that over the discussion board by posting read this article and tell me what you feel. The problem is, and the way I'll get back to the way Dane described it. The problem is, will there be enough meat left on the bone for 30 students to comment on something like that? And often there's not. There's often, we have a couple of challenges. Number one, if you're the first mover, that's great, because you'll take the biggest bite of the turkey leg. But what happens if you're 30th? Are you 30th because you're lazy? I thought this was an online class. We could learn whenever we want. So you're kind of inadvertently setting rules for yourself if you're trying to use the discussion board as a way of getting feedback. Now, can you use it correctly? Absolutely. Just like a good presentation, it takes a lot of time to think about what is a good discussion topic that will allow everybody to contribute. So now, if you're using it the way I heard Dane described it, when I teach online, I have my students write reflection essays. And that serves the purpose of each student having a voice that they would not voice to me on, as far as in a classroom. Whereas if you're using the discussion board for that purpose, essentially they're like essays that are more public, almost like blogging. If you're using it as if you're trying to simulate a class conversation, then you have, I'm sorry to say this, but then you have what Quality Matters does when they certify you. You got to post once and reply twice, as if that mimics a real conversation. The reality is, if you have 13 conversations over the course of 8 weeks or 3 weeks, well, question one, once you spoke once and replied twice, you don't have enough time to go back to that other conversation. Whereas when you have a regular conversation in class, you do like what a lot of us do. We could keep revisiting. We can go back and forth and have that same conversation. So I find that the idea of we want our students participating. We want to hear from them. They're out there inside. I want to know who they are. And a lot of us default to that discussion board. And I caution you, if you're going to do it, you got to put the time in to do it right. Let alone, if you start using it as a conversation, think about the conversations that you have in class with your students. Imagine if now all of those conversations are transcribed and they're no longer off the cuff talking, but now you have to read them. Number one, I don't know about you, but my students aren't exactly Shakespeare, right? No, I can't even think of a funny joke, so we'll just leave it at that. It's just not. So seeing that in written form instantly is a different experience than hearing it spoken. And so you have all of your conversations are now drilled down into we'll call it an essay form. Okay, you have 30 students, write once, reply twice. Well, just do the math. That's a lot of essays to read when you would just be reacting to it off the cuff. So, again, what I'm getting at, main point, online is not the same thing as live. So therefore, if you want to have discussions, you have to think about how do I best do that, or should I have discussions at all? should this be a self-paced course? And I'll give you an example. I didn't always do this, but here's I'm currently teaching an undergraduate HR course. I've taught this a couple of different ways. Okay, first thing, by the way, if you're going to do online, you have to have a cool banner. All right, that's very, very important. I've never had any compliments on it, but I think it's cool. So this is my presentation. So you notice you like a banner. Thank you very much. But go to cool. Just Google cool logo generator, and you can get all types. I once had the logo in Shrek font when Shrek was popular. So okay. So one thing that you'll notice when I do my online course, I'm interactive. Right now, maybe not the most interactive because we're all eating into it, but when I'm in class, I'm with my graduate students, very, very Socratic method, very much a seminar-style course. But when I go online, this is very self-paced. The students walk in, and they have modules that they have to walk through. So now, will they see me? Okay, so I have a section on HR history. And so this is human resource management. So one part is technical, functional HR. The other part is case studies of HR turn of the 20th century. So my students log in, they see an intro, right? And so you want to interact, right? Here's me. Here's my wife.
The history of HR.
Okay. Here's my wife's wreath. Okay. I recorded this at home. So the students listen to and they interact with me because it's just like watching TV. I don't try to have them interact with each other. Interesting point, sidebar. There was a book written 2 years ago called Academically Adrift. And one of the main points of that book was that students learn the least when they interact with each other. They learn the most when they interact with faculty members. So the idea of thinking that they're all going to learn from each other, I know that there's research out there that says, when they collaborate and when they participate in class, that works great. But you know what? When they're just all at the same level and they don't have a coach or a mentor, it doesn't work. So I have the students working directly with me. Essentially, they step through a bunch of lectures that I've prepared. And what I also do in my class is I give them the opportunity to actually meet with me face-to-face. I create separate office hours. On Fridays, I go to the East Side Barnes & Noble, as long as it's still in business, and I have 12 to 1 p.m. office hours. And to my surprise, every semester I have 5 to 10 students who stop by and chat with me on multiple occasions. So I take the online class and I don't try to turn Blackboard into an actual classroom. I say, how do I best reach my students? If my students want a self-paced learning environment, much like iTunes U, much like YouTube, or much like the Khan Academy, they have that. They never have to talk to me. They can learn a lot about HR at the intro level. But if they want to talk to me, I give them many options. I constantly contact them about professional organization meetings. Some of them show up that way. I have meetings at Barnes & Noble. I meet with them that way. I try to figure out, this is not the same thing that I would do if I was live in a class. If I was live in a class, well, what does my Blackboard site look like if I'm teaching a live class? As opposed to having a series of YouTube lectures and all the like. Let's go look at one of my live classes. Nothing. Just content. I don't use it that much except for a grade book. All right, let's just look at my graduate class. Really, nothing. All it is just a little bit of content. All right, so I'm a different professor when I teach online. And now I'm only saying this because I'm very modest, but I'm amazed that in the past, when I've tried to teach online and tried to give students a rigid schedule, when I've tried to give them more interaction, I've actually got worse course evaluations than what I do with my current method. And every semester I'm thinking, God, maybe I wish it would be, a little more interactive. But I realize that in online, that's not the way the students want to learn best. So stop for a second here. Any challenges, agreements, questions that you would like to see this conversation go? Because again, my challenge to you is that it's not the same thing. Teaching online, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Everything you think you know as a classroom professor, a lot of you have been doing this a lot longer than I have, it's not the same thing. Questions, comments? Megan, and then...
Do you find any difference between in terms of student outcomes between your face-to-face and online student when applying this methodology?
All I can only speak with experiences. I have students who take me online, and then that's the way it works. Like that 341 class, it's sort of it's a junior senior level class, but it's really kind of an online course. I will usually have those students in future classes, and they will come up to me and they'll constantly bad word. They'll tell me that something they remembered from a lecture, something that they remembered, even if it's just a funny question, because some of my quiz questions, I have some jokes on there, they'll tell me they remembered that. Now, that's not the best student learning outcome, but at least it's something that means that they remembered the class. And I found in the past, I've taught our Intro to Management course, and I've had students say, oh, I remember that section on Frederick Taylor, the way you did, I still remember this about soldiering and lazy workers and the like. So it's... In many ways, you could even be better because when you teach online, you're actually more focused on the outcomes, since I think a lot of times I take it for granted that the tangents and the fun conversations that you could have in class, they're not always outcome-oriented. They're culture-oriented. They build camaraderie. They build kind of a nice environment. But when it comes to online classes, you almost become more outcome-focused because that's all you really do in a lot of ways, is that you present a lesson and an outcome. For some of you, that's not always the best. I mean, I like the conversational aspect. I don't think that we should all just kind of teach to the test and everything should be, everything should just be outcome-focused. But to answer Megan's question, it's definitely not my outcomes are worse. So, so your name again? We have a
Alan.
Alan. Question, comment.
I was wondering how long you make your lectures and if they're correlated with the textbook.
Depends on if I use a textbook. That's a separate why Jason hates textbooks lecture that I can do. But when I call it correlated with a textbook, most of my lectures are 10 minutes. I try to think of the average attention span of a student, and then I think of my average attention span, and usually the student is longer. And so I also think about the idea of really, kind of when you're doing PowerPoint, 1 point, 1 slide. I mean, really, really focus the lecture, have a point to the lecture. I don't. And this is a lot of times the factor of the subject that I teach and the books that I use. I don't read the book to them. That's a whole industry issue problem in itself, where the publishers will take their textbook and put it in PowerPoint form and give it to the professor, and then the professor uses those PowerPoint slides as visual aids. Those are not visual aids, those are speaking notes, or they're a summary of the textbook. And I don't do that. If I was going to do that, I wouldn't even lecture. I would say, here's the PowerPoint slides, correspondence course, have fun. And so I would be, by the way, doing your own lectures. How many of you have recorded your own lectures? I know, again, there's an art form to that as well. I don't always enjoy doing it straight in front of a camera, because a lot of times it's just me, and so getting my head, in the right direction. I've recorded plenty of them where I'm kind of looking like that, and they're out there. So a lot of times I default to audio, podcast style, so they can listen to it on an iPod, and I just always advise them to make sure that I'm not part of their shuffle. All right, so all of a sudden, you have Miley Cyrus and then me. But to get to your point, you don't have to do. I don't think 2-minute lecture is probably too short, depending on your topic. But if you teach a 50-minute class, 50-minute straight lecture depends on the topic. I would probably do multiple 10 to 15-minute lectures, point by point, or some of the technology that we have allows you to section out a 15-minute lecture, so you can go, okay, right now, we're gonna work on the standard deviation here in this statistics class, and then at the 30-minute point, we're going to work on the variance. I mean, obviously, if you were teaching it, you'd probably do it the other way around. This shows why I don't teach statistics. But Megan, you were going to say something.
I'm just wondering if you have some samples you can show with your podcast here. Like, how does your student access to these audios?
Okay, sample with the podcast. Do I have anything? I'd have to go to a previous course if we're going to go podcast. I've been, what I've done, well, here, let's use a different one.
If you click on courses,
yeah, no, but I think I could actually make this a little simpler. if we believe it or not, so when I say I don't use textbooks, one thing that I like to do is for the HR course, I actually use the HR for Dummies. I find they're actually it's written by a guy from Robert Half Technologies, who's basically a recruiting firm, and so even though the For Dummies maybe in academia we look at that as something that's not that, it's actually a great book to pair with a bunch of case studies. So I had mentioned podcasts. Here's the easiest way to do it would be one thing that, let me just pick an example here. So I've used what am I using? Adobe Breeze, and I've recorded this for the students.
Chapter 4 picks up on the strategic staffing idea from Chapter 3 and adds a little bit more detail.
Right. So you see something like this. I don't know how beneficial it would be for me to play the whole thing, but I have, again, following on, I'm going to just lower this and I'll bring it back up. Following on the idea of 1.1 slide, so here's basically I create a PowerPoint presentation, so you only have, you have my voice and various points. And so that's kind of what I've been doing with that. In the past, what I've done is where you'd see Lecture 3 here and it's a link to Breeze, you would just see a link to an MP3 file. And you could, so for example, one thing I can show you, this is how it would look if, wrong class. Here, I'm going to run QuickTime. Hopefully this runs. This is how, this would be basically what the students would see if you're doing it. I don't know if I should point at that or point at that, but if you were going to kind of link an MP3 file, you would have an MP3 here. And in this case, this is a request for the students to write me an essay giving me feedback on the class, so kind of a midterm review kind of thing. And so I have, this is shorter, this is only 2 minutes long, and so you can click this and save the file, or you can play it directly in Blackboard. And so I found that unless you're, I actually shouldn't tell you, whatever you're better at, if you feel like your camera works for you, then use the camera. But if not, all of our computers are very good right now with being able to handle audio. Most of them, you don't even need the mic, right? It's kind of plugged right in there. Although it wouldn't hurt to have a halfway decent mic, because when you start editing your podcast and you start going after every time you talk, and you see this long line in your soundtrack there, the really cheaper mics will pick that up. And so the better mics will kind of only focus on what's in front. And so I guess long story short would be, again, there's a little bit more to there. Again, there's a learning curve. You don't need to worry about your quote-unquote microphone when you're talking in front of class. You just don't need to know if you need one. Right? And if no one can hear you in the back, they'll tell you, unless they're sleeping. Go ahead.
I just want to mention that the Faculty Innovation Studio now has a faculty loaner program, so you don't have to purchase your own microphone. You can just borrow one from our center. Okay.
And what kind of microphones are they?
They are actually a headset.
Okay.
You don't have to wear it. If you want to do video, it looks kind of odd. So you can just have your microphone kind of in front of you. The camera won't cover the microphone, right? But the audio will be crispy clear.
Okay. So let's see. So I mentioned stuff about discussion room. By the way, and this goes for anybody teaching Blackboard. There's a really, really neat feature on Blackboard that you can use that would really, really help you teach. It's called deleting. I think that a lot of times when we get a vanilla Blackboard course, and this is where I've mentioned this to Megan. We're never going to go this route yet, but I always thought it would be most beneficial if when you get a Blackboard shell, it's nothing. So that way the course designer gets to choose what tools and content you put in there. But a lot of times Blackboard defaults, and so you have homepage, discussion board, content, instructor info, and all that. And there's some, you need to have some good information about who you are. But really, especially with an online course, really take a hard look about what you need. And if you can get by with, the less you have on the left side, the better, because it's just easier for your students to navigate it. You can't get away with what I do for a live class, because obviously Blackboard is where you're going to access a lot of the stuff. Really, really think long and hard about how much you want to have. You want to have related links and faculty info and syllabus info and all that. I mean, that's where I will say with quality matters with that certification. Yeah, it's when the student logs in for the first time, they should know where the syllabus is. They should know how to contact you. They should know what they have to do. And if they have to click on one for something, it's one of those things that becomes very difficult. So what else? What are you thinking? Any other thoughts on? So again, I want you to challenge you to think about how can an online course, how is that different from being face-to-face? Yes?
I was going to say, so do you give your students any opportunities to interact with other students, or it's just basically unless they already know each other, they're out of luck? Do I give them
well, let's put it this way. When they come to meet with me in my Barnes & Noble hours, sometimes they'll meet that way. There's one of these, the best is the enemy of the better. And what I've found is, given the online course and given the culture of the students taking the course, again, I'm not teaching an MBA online course, so we're talking junior undergraduate students. As far as, honestly, I don't find that to be a priority in their learning, is having them talk to each other, because unless, to be honest, it actually a lot of times just makes it an administrative nightmare for me when I teach, and I find that the students don't get much out of it. And it's one of those cost-benefit analyses. If I was teaching 5 students, I could probably moderate a fairly good discussion board. Now, in the past, if I was to make something work, I would have divided the students up. Maybe you 5 students, here's a forum if I'm going to use the discussion board. And so you have 30 students in an online class, assign 5 of them possibly to a forum so that they could only react to the 5 of each other, because, again, you run the risk of, you don't want to have 135 essays to grade a week. And if you encourage them to be on a discussion board and you don't put the thought in ahead of what you want to get out of that discussion board, that's what you're basically going to have. I associate, again, a discussion board. If I have a hole in my drywall and I don't know how to fix it, I could post a picture of that on the discussion board. Somebody will reply back. But if I don't have a hole in my drywall and I don't know how to fix it, I don't want to have to post on a discussion board. And that's sometimes how students feel when the discussion topic is not prepared correctly. But now, were you saying that because you want your students to interact? Because if that's the case, we could talk about that. Okay, that's fine.
I'm curious if you give similar assessment items between your online students and your
yes.
face-to-face.
Yeah. In the past I have. Because like the 341 class, I'm not teaching live right now. It's not a fair comparison. But in the past, I've actually had, I don't use the discussion board, but I do have that my students write reflection essays. And I've tried, at least anyway, to have the students read a case study, write a kind of a reflection essay. They read the case study, tell me what action you would take, put that in a paper, submit it to me, and then I would use that, and that would be almost my notes for my class. And then we would have a case discussion, and then the students would write a reflection afterwards. And I've simulated that in an online environment where instead of having the discussion, I'd have the students read a case study, send me the essays, I grade them, and then I would record a lecture, and then they would respond back to my lecture. No difference in the papers. Absolutely.
They respond back to your lecture.
They watch it and then email me. And so, yeah, good point, though. Yeah, so yeah, you can't. Obviously, it's not a real time thing. I haven't. I said this is a culture thing with me. I don't view online teaching in real time. This is real time. You could get away with it maybe once, but part of the challenge that you have with an online course, and again, this is not when a student registers for an online course, they see N01. And then they see course meeting, they just see web. They don't see Wednesday night at 9 p.m. log into Blackboard, collaborate. They figure that out the first day of class or whenever they get the syllabus. And so I don't want to say I side with students, but I understand that. They work. They have their set schedule. I know in the real world meetings come up and you have to adjust your schedule accordingly, but there's a school. And so we can't fight that current. We can only coax them a little bit. And so if I knew that when a student registered for a web course, it said on the schedule of courses, chat session 6 p.m. Wednesday, then I would feel comfortable doing Blackboard Collaborate or something like that. But until that time, I look at online courses being asynchronous.
I just want to point out we do have a course category called NR,
Mm-hmm.
and that is actually for online courses with video conferencing component in there.
Okay.
So if you decided to do synchronized activities,
Mm-hmm.
you want to list your course as NR course
Okay.
instead of NO.
Okay.
Which I do believe that depends on the discipline and the student profile.
Okay.
You have to choose the best for your student. Like for Jason's class is more for undergraduate,
Mm-hmm.
so they do need a lot of cultivation from the faculty member. But for graduate students, especially those who already work in the professional workplace, they might have a lot of the real case study and experience to share with each other. At that point, I think that collaboration may bring some value to their
Okay.
learning.
So Megan said was NR1. If you want to, especially for people listening recording, you do NR1 if you want. Now, does that give you the opportunity in your class schedule to list when your chat session would be?
That will be something we will probably start working with the registrar soon, because I recognize that recently it becomes a confusion, because some of the faculty would love to have some synchronized communication, which for some classes have been very successful. So, but oftentimes it's very difficult to figure out the schedule. So I think that will be a good idea if we have all these courses listed as NR1, and then you actually list out Wednesday 6 to 8 p.m. or something like that, so student is expecting if you take this class, that's the time. But at the same time, I do want the online faculty to consider this. The reason why students take an online option may be because they cannot commit a specific time.
Right.
So you can either list it as NO1 and make the synchronized event as a voluntary, with maybe extra points or some sort to encourage them to participate. Or you will require that. So that really depends on your design of how you want the curriculum to be run.
Right. And what you see with Megan's point is that there's it's a complex. It's more complex than it seems at face value. If you want to have a chat session, well, again, it's the culture of school. Students have a set schedule. We would love them to be flexible, but a lot of them aren't, and we have to play the ball as it lies. And so, in which case, the challenge will be, we want, one way to do that would be something outside the scope of even what I wanted to talk about, but we have to get them at time of registration to know what they're getting themselves into. The other thing would be, again, if it's health professions, or even in our College of Business, if our goal is to cater to people who have asynchronous schedules, who want to be like Western governors and work at 2:30 in the morning, then maybe 6 p.m. chat session is not what we want, or it can't be a crucial part of the class. It has to be something along the lines of, I'm going to do this live, just like this is going on right now, but if you want to access this at a later time, the only thing that you miss is the ability to ask questions. Megan, I know Laura had something.
And a little bit really quick, there's a tool called VoidThread, actually supports asynchronous communication with actually audio instead of writing as just via essay, like what you described.
Okay.
So that becomes also a handy tool if you want to engage students at an asynchronous way. That will be good. So
Okay.
I just want to point that out.
Okay, Laura, I know you had your hand up.
Oh, no, I just wanted to go back to the discussion board.
Yeah, please.
I studied online, my master's degree, and I was, a graduate assistant, and most of the people on the master's degree were people already working, looking, for better positions. So even though people think, like, online discussion might be like old-fashioned, I got a lot out of it.
Sure.
It's like with them sharing their experience in the, in
Right.
their work setting, which helped me because I wasn't
Yes.
working in the university. So I don't know.
No, well, and you're absolutely correct. And Dane's probably going to, Dane, go ahead. Supporter, or is that, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think that, two issues here. And that may be in part a distinction between engagement and building community, because they're related but distinct. We clearly need to engage students, undergraduate or graduate, and we can do that one-on-one. It may be less important to engage students with one another, depending on what it is that they're sharing. I think the reason why it's important at the graduate level is exactly what Laura said.
Right.
And the kind of sharing you want, whether it's an MHA program or an MBA program or the MPA program or what have you, you want the students sharing their work experience. And so I found that to be very helpful in the graduate courses.
Right.
In the undergraduate courses, it could be helpful if students were adept at sharing their experiences, but all of our undergraduate students work, but they don't necessarily think about their work as being course related. Whereas in management, in business, any work is course related. But if they're not making that connection, then it's not really going to be value added. But I think, again, at the graduate level, the reason why our students choose our MBA program over online options, in large part, is they want that community. They want to be in class with other students, professionals in the field. They value that. They can learn as much from one another as they can from me. At the graduate level. At the undergraduate level, that's probably not the case. So I think what I would say, I'll go part of the way toward agreeing with you. Not
that's okay.
Way, but part of the way, in terms of at the undergraduate level, I think what would be important, break the students into groups, so that you have little pods of discussion, and try to get discussion questions where they are actually doing something constructive in sharing their approach. Because then you may even have a learning opportunity at the undergraduate level.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad.
And as you say, if you got 30 students and it's the post and reply, and then
but you know what? I don't want to call it the sadistic side, but you know what? If you haven't taught online, I think maybe you have to. If you think it may work, you have to try it and tell me it did or it didn't. I think because until you're kicking yourself for setting up that structure.
I just wanted to ask a question if you want to field some at this point.
That's fine.
You've done a lot of experimentation.
Yes.
Not everything has worked.
Yes.
Have you been surprised where you tried something that you were pretty sure was just a wacky idea?
Yeah.
But because of your propensity to risk take, went ahead and did it, and you were surprised that it really worked well?
Yeah, wacky idea was that I created the class that I posted everything ahead and I let my students work as fast as they want. I set it up where if you think you could finish this class in a month, go ahead and do it. And the students did it well, and then thanked me for it. Whereas it's not even a way of me. It is I'll get to this point because there's another point I want to make. It is a lot of front end work to set up a course like that. But to set up a course where the students have a series of assignments, a semester's long amount of work, and tell them, if you finish by the end of by October 1st, I'll actually even give you an extra point on your final average and so forth. The students actually embraced that challenge, worked really, really hard for 3 to 4 weeks, and did a great job. And these weren't. This wasn't fluff. This wasn't just copy off your friend type stuff. These were essays. These were tests. And it worked really, really well, which surprised me because I thought the students would go, well, I'm getting away with something. I finished quick. And it was actually the reverse. They actually were more task focused, more lesson focused, and it was the complete opposite of what I worried about. And these were, if you would think of who's the students who completed early, it was your higher GPAs. And we have the ability to access their DARs and all that, so I was kind of curious about this. And it was, in fact, the better students appreciated the ability to just learn something on their own time as fast as possible. The reverse was the case where when I was teaching at Temple University, I set up my online course just like a live course. On Monday, you got to do an activity. And then on Wednesday, you have an essay to write. And then on Friday, you have a quiz due. And it was over a period of 2 weeks, you had to kind of do this stuff. And I'm thinking, this is great, you're going to interact, and I had a lot of feedback going, I want to do my work on the weekends. I can't take all these deadlines. I mean, again, this real world, but I thought this would be great. I'd space it out, I'd keep it interactive, varying options, that's what we all like. But when it came to it, what the students really wanted was the flexibility. Then I guess once again, it's a 2, 3, 4 part thing. Once you design your class, to appeal to the right amount of flexibility, then building in the discussion forums or your tests, your essays, that comes from it first. Ernie, you're
back to the discussion board and things like that. I haven't taught online.
That's okay.
One of my greatest fears is just being inundated by just reading, email, the discussion board, and they just keep going on, and all you're doing is reading this. So I was curious in terms of what kind of approach, what did you do to kind of control that? That's the first part. I mean, other than, okay, I'm going to give them less,
Well, as far as I scrapped the discussion boards in favor of individual essays. And then I would, if there was a particularly good essay or something like that, I would respond back to the student and ask, can I share this with the class or something like that. For that reason, I think that it is, it's an art form. Again, some people can make something work that other people, cannot make something work. Right? So some people like reading their books digitally. Other people prefer a huge stack of print books. At the end of the day, you get the knowledge, right? And so, to Ernie's question, I said, you know what, I want to do what Dana was doing. I want them to react. I want to know what they're thinking. But the discussion board was becoming way too cumbersome for me to do it, and I wasn't always getting great feedback. So more targeted essays worked. And so that's kind of the... but the other thing being, when you teach online, I think that there's a... Let's put it this way. How many of you have ever made a change on the fly in the middle of your course? Right? Has anyone never done? Right? Only the people who are going to be teachers someday will learn that lesson. It's very difficult to do that online because you don't see your students. You are an email address or you're a head, and that's it. And the idea of going, I'm going to change course. I'm going to, scrap the assignment, postpone a test, give you some extra practice. Think about the analogy of just go online, go to Courier Press, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and read the comments, right? Fairly civilized part of the time, right? When people become anonymous and they don't know you as a person, it becomes very difficult, which is why I err to the side of the videos, because that lets them see me as a person to some degree, so that at least they feel like they're talking to a person. When you prepare your class online, for those of you who have or haven't, the most work that you do online happens before you ever press play, before the first day of classes. If you find that you kind of like to do some of the ad hoc stuff that we all do, you're thinking about, you have this lesson and something popped up in the Wall Street Journal and you want to integrate it into your, whatever it is. Or maybe it's, this is the first time I'm teaching the class, and okay, I'm gonna be 2 days ahead of my students because I've done it, especially as a graduate student. I know what that's like. Once it's so much easier once you've taught, you feel comfortable, and you don't have to be that type of teacher. But I just said that with a camera on. I can't believe it. But you can't do that online. You have to. You really. It's almost. I'll just be direct and blunt, and then I'll back off. You really have to have every conversation you think you're ever going to have prepared before you ever press play on the course. Now, it's not that bad, but it's better to think that way than it is to figure things out as you go, because it's just not the same. So, I'll just give you another example that I do just to show you how I personalize myself. I would always advise some level of a greeting to the students. And so, when I email something to my students, again, this was all, I changed these a lot. So I have, here's me again in my home office. Now, what works here, I can't lower the volume, but you'll see there's a guest appearance of my cat. Right?
Was that staged?
No.
You want to help me?
He talked. I was trying to. He meows, and if you look, he actually he comes. He has another cameo there over my shoulder. He starts making faces at one point, right? And so I humanize myself a little bit. I have, in another class, I have a picture of my son when he was 7 months old, and I was holding him. That was the last time I was actually able to hold him without him trying to get away. So there's a little bit of a human element, and I had a student come up to me in the hallway, say, "I love your cat," and that's what happens. I mean, that's the personal aspect of it to it. Now, again, I think that it's not the same. Again, the theme of what this is, it's not the same as face-to-face. no matter if you are the nicest or the nastiest professor in the classroom, and so most of us will fall in between one of those two, the students don't know you. They don't know you as a person unless they have you as an advisor or have seen you in the hallway. And so you have to remember that you have to build, Dane said the idea of community building. You have to build yourself up as a person. It's very challenging. Again, we don't think about that way because the first time we teach it, we're just worried about getting all the content out there. We're rookies again. We have to learn we have to learn the content and then learn how to teach it. Ernie, we're going to.
Yeah, one of I guess the thing that I hear most frequently from students online that they hate the most.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this seems to be, and see if this actually is reflective of what other people heard, is the busy work.
Mm-hmm.
That they hate being given stuff just to make sure that they're staying on track.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the fact that they hate that.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be what most of them always tell me. So I guess at the same point, how do you keep them on track to make sure they're stay on track without creating all of the other prompts that are going to create? Because let's face it, I really don't want to get busy work.
Right.
I got a grade.
Right.
And if it's going to be busy work, I don't want a grade.
Right.
So if it's just something, and the students pick up on that pretty quick.
Okay. So you know what? Well, this will help, and this will be a little Socratic here. What is busy work? I'm philosophically speaking. What?
Well, I'll say one thing, and this brings us back to the discussion board.
Yeah.
One of my biggest complaints about discussion boards, I've never used it,
Right.
I don't like it, is this tally.
Okay.
Mentality.
Okay.
I posted twice, so
Right.
I'm the 30th one, and so you know what? I throw some out there.
Right.
And I look at it and go, that's really garbage.
Okay.
But I mean, in their mind, they're going, okay, well, there's my mark. I've got my tally.
Right.
I did post two.
Right.
Somebody posted two.
Right.
I posted two. I didn't have anything to say, but I posted two. It's that kind of thing where you're just kind of going, you're counting tallies, how many times they post on a discussion board. Or something like that.
Okay.
Or having certain assignments where they'll have an assignment that I want you to go ahead and do this and then email it to me.
Okay.
And then the faculty basically, the ones I hate the most are the plus, mine, whatever.
Okay.
That kind of stuff is what I normally consider to be some good.
Anybody else? What's busy work?
Well, I'm not going to say that what's busy work.
That's okay.
In reference to that, if you have a grading rubric saying exactly what your expectations are, it's not considered busy work because they have to meet those expectations to get full points from that discussion.
All right. So now what we're really talking about here, Ernie's right. And again, and I'm sorry, your name is?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay. You're both on the same side of the issue here. This is again an example of what's magnified. If you want them, for whatever reason, there's a great article on healthcare in the paper today. Read it, and we're going to talk about it in class, or do a quick summary, or whatever. If you're doing it like this, and you're going to have some level of an engaging discussion, it may still feel like busy work, but there's a little bit more of a follow through. When you don't get that follow through, or the students don't see the purpose and they just see the talent, it's magnified. It just feels like my class is a series of homework assignments. Now, again, it's a pedagogical issue of I'm always a believer of the be careful of anything that you weight under 10% of a final grade, because the students will give you 10% effort. If you have 2 tests in your class and that's all you do, everyone's not going to get an A, but they will be serious when those test day comes. At least most of them will be. And so, to Ernie's point, a lot of it is you do have to think about the type of teaching you do. Now, you're teaching a quantitative math class, and you're just going to give 2 or 3 assessments over Blackboard. I don't know. You probably want to give them some level of practice. And now, but I don't think that would qualify as busy work the way Ernie described it, because that's more like batting cage stuff before you play softball, right? So, but his point is well taken. It is thinking about what the students know your class is. If your class is just I have to do these small assignments every week, and the students are perceiving no value to them, then it has to be either the case of, is that the student's fault or is that my fault? In many cases, it is the student's fault. And so that's when we say, I'm still giving the assignment. But if it's the case of, wait a minute, this assignment doesn't have any value added for what I want to do, then, err to less assignments that are weighted more heavily. See what happens. I mean, be very careful about, again, doing the quick, revolutionary change in anything that you do. This is maybe a slight outside the scope of, but what I've always learned is every time I ever have a big project in a class, it always started off as a small assignment in a class that I was able to be lenient on the grading because I was able to see what I would get. Then once I learned what I got when something was 10%, then the next semester I made it worth 20% because I knew what I was going to get. And online is going to be a bit that way too. If you're teaching it for the first time, perhaps you want to be a little bit more cookie cutter with your assessment, but put a premium on culture building. So just like you're working out, now I'm working on cardio, now I'm working on strength. Perhaps the first time you work out, I want to focus on making sure I know how to communicate with students when I'm teaching online. Okay, now that I got my teaching style down online and I could kind of give off the image that I want, okay, now I'm going to work on doing a little bit more, whatever I want to call interaction or assignments. You can't do it all at once. I think that's why people could get overwhelmed, is that they're still kind of learning the ropes. Remember, you're all, again, you probably have more teaching experience than me, but we're all rookies when we start teaching online because there's no classroom. Right? It's a weird feeling. Any other thoughts? We haven't really even gotten onto testing, and I'm kind of glad because I have a weird love-hate relationship with testing. If you're teaching online, I will say, over at Megan's office, they do a great job in proctoring. If you want students to take live exams, Vicki and Julie will gladly proctor live exams for you, and then they will tell you all the funny stories about the people stumbling in to take your exam. But go ahead.
We also offer proctor screening services. So if you have a student in California could come to USI to take the proctor exam, we will screen the proctor for you to make sure it's not a boyfriend, proctor exam, all that kind of stuff. I do want to actually comment on what Jason's notions earlier. I do believe teaching is art. And everybody had their own philosophy because based on their experience, what kind of student profile they usually deal with, they design a way that works for them. And but this is what my experience has been as a faculty support person. I do found that the courses or the faculty member have more clear, measurable learning objectives building inside the curriculum, tend to be able to develop a better quality discussion within the course because you have some sort of outcome to guide that discussion. So like what Charlotte was suggesting, because you have a very well-developed measurable learning objectives building for the whole course, then the discussion rubric will be very easy to develop because you want to make sure there's a reason why you have a discussion for the course. Discussion board is just a technology. It does not help you teaching or engage students. It's how you design the questions. So my favorite activity to engage student discussion is actually let them share their own experience or create their own innovation in terms of strategy or model, or their own thoughts, like the reflection paper, like you said, because that's what they create. That's how you use that activity to generate a critical thinking and, that kind of thing. But if you just want to throw out some questions, how do you define whatever theory? Then pretty much everybody will just kind of look at the definition and try to, then it kind of loses its purpose of the actual discussion. Since discussion is back and forth. So I just want to point that out. There's no right way or wrong way how you teach. Some courses discussion is vital.
Yeah, and I think
some, like math class, what do you discuss? You have to practice.
But ironically, though, ironically, though, you can use the Wikipedia theory for math classes. I think in some ways the discussion could even be more effective in an online math class than it could be because you could just have the students say, hey, I'm having a problem, with calculus problem number 7. Can anybody help me out? And then you may actually get more valuable feedback in, just like fixing the drywall analogy that I gave, versus a forced discussion. We're students. I think we can all remember back to this as faculty members. We only saw ourselves and maybe our friends. But when you see the whole class, you start seeing an array of ability and motivation. And so when you think about, I was a great student, and so therefore I'm going to, what worked well for me. When you start teaching, you start learning about the students who are great people but not great in the classroom, is the best way I can put it. And you start figuring out that I can't have everybody write a 25-page paper because I have a good chunk of my class who needs help with writing skills. Therefore, I have to give smaller assignments that challenge the top students. So it's interesting when you think about online. I guess it's the same way. It's like anything. I always like to err to the better student. I want to design something that I know the top students will feel challenged. But it's always difficult for me to think about what do I want versus what does everybody else want. But that's fine. I just will say with testing, the best is the enemy of the better when it comes to testing. I would not have it in the back of my mind that every student in my online class is cheating, therefore I want to lock down their computer as much as possible. Because there is something. There's a lockdown browser. You can find that, right? Where you're taking an online test and you can never go to any internet site. Or there's something called ProctorU, right? Where you could actually log into someone, there's some dude staring at you while you're taking the test. Listen, if students are going to, cheat, it depends on how upset are you going to get about this. I have very minimal controls on I have my students take everything through Blackboard. You know what? I've seen some low grades. So if they're cheating, they're doing a bad job. All right, they need to cheat better. And so it's just kind of the way I look at it. You have to pick your battles. You don't want to feel like you're trying to rigidly chain your students in front of a computer when they're taking an assessment. But yes, you don't physically see them when they're taking an assessment. So, think about that as you plan your assignments. If you can give, for example, something like an essay or something that's open-ended that it's hard to cheat on, because obviously if you answer an open-ended question identical to somebody else, it's easy. I think I would try to address any concerns with that through your pedagogy before you start worrying about the technology, because you will find, even if you just administer your test over Blackboard, that, I don't know, let's just say 10% of the exams taken, a student will contact you saying, my test crashed, Blackboard locked me out, I clicked submit and it said access denied. And you know what, I believe most of them. It's not as if they accessed it and it went away. It's going to happen. It happens with us when we log into Blackboard. So try to address cheating first through your pedagogy, second through your... and by the way, so that's maybe the opposite of what I said. That's the same as what you do online. Dan, go ahead.
I would agree with that completely. In my courses, undergrad and grad, particularly undergrad, because it may be less typical of what I do in the classroom, something that Kevin Valadares said years ago when he was doing this, I make my my tests in my online class open resource, and the essay questions are more application questions as opposed to knowledge and understanding. I find it harder to do that in class. But in the online, it's higher order thinking, and I think that's more appropriate. It better models what they're going to be doing in reality. So I do still have a multiple choice section, which is still open resource. But if the students never looked at the textbook before the exam, that's probably not a good idea.
You set a timer. Yeah.
So I'll do a multiple choice section for knowledge and understanding, but then the written portion is all application questions. And I do open resource.
Sure.
They can look at anything.
All right. And so remember, technology can and will fail as much as we love it. So one thing I'll say, whatever test you try to do, minimize the amount of clicks that they have to click to finish the test. Just when you create a Blackboard test, if you choose to do that way, display everything at once. Don't have one question appear at a time and have them click, because every click is a recipe for a server error. And then that becomes an email to you. And that's no knock on distance ed. That's on Blackboard. That just happens. That's just try to be a minimalist with things like that. But encourage your students to save. Question?
Actually, both people here know me, but I guess you don't know me. I'm
okay.
actually the Blackboard administrators. You were talking about me.
That's okay.
And one, I have to say, that I don't like discussion boards either. That's me, but that's because I don't like to type and I don't like to read. I like any than that. But
you like to read code, though, right? I bet you like to read code. Right? No? Okay. Just keep. That's right. You're an administrator. You like to look at the final product with you.
Well, there's a difference between what you get paid to do and what you like to do.
Okay,
I like
sure.
to come to stuff like this.
Okay.
Anyways,
Cool.
You can't. Blackboard is set up in a way currently right now where it's called a timeout feature. So if you minimize the clicks on a test, your test will almost usually crash, especially if it's an essay question test.
Okay.
Any question that takes more than 15 minutes to answer, you risk the chance of what us in the technical field call a timeout. And that timeout can be a browser timeout, it can be a router timeout. Blackboard itself will technically kick you out after an hour, but none of y'all heard that. Just assume it kicks you out after 15 minutes.
Okay.
So whenever you make a test, especially an essay question test, you always want to put that one at a time, especially an essay question test, because they only have like 15 minutes before something says, I don't think there's a student here anymore.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, because I don't want you calling me later.
Okay.
Especially
So this is the
Christmas break, because I won't answer.
Okay. Well, no, that's good. That's
You mean 15 minutes between clicks?
15 minutes between clicks.
Between interactions?
I mean, I prefer you get it down slower than that, but at maximum, if you think your test, if one question is going to take more than 15 minutes, you run the risk of the test failing.
No, what happens, I think this is good because this will be recorded. So clarification, if you have an exam display all at once that has an hour and a half time limit, and so the students are typing throughout the hour and a half, is that the same situation? Okay, and so that will fall into your timeout issue.
Right.
Okay.
If you have 115 questions on your test, you better do 3 separate exams.
Okay. Okay, and by the way, that's the. I'm glad we have that recorded because we all learn stuff. So that's the. So scratch what I said about 5 minutes ago. But yeah, be judicious about again. This is why you police your exams through the pedagogy versus the technology, because there's as we learned from our Blackboard administrator. Yeah, there's a lot that can and will go wrong.
I think students are overwhelmed if you give them all questions at once. They're just like, oh my gosh, there's this many questions. I can't even answer the first question. They go into panic mode.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's the challenge, right? I'm speaking of a 5-question essay test versus 115 question. Boom. Right. Yeah. That would be. I mean, you read an article online and you see the cursor about so big. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to read this. And so I could totally understand that. And so again, it's just something that unfortunately you kind of learn as you go along. We're kind of broken down, right? So we'll close this part of it, and then again, I'm happy to stay and chat if anybody has. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I do want to say a little bit something. Today is our last session for the seminar, and I really appreciate all your support coming throughout the whole semester. And again, the purpose of this event is really to exchange different teaching philosophies, among different type of discipline, different type of teaching style, and faculty's characteristics. There's no right or wrong. It's just any way that works for you that can engage your student, get the best learning outcome is our goal. So I really appreciate Jason today challenge our stereotype of online learning and bring some good insights. And I thought that is a very valuable learning that we can all start thinking about what we see online learning from a different angle. And thank you so much.